Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Alex's Afternoon Art Show. Today we are drawing Jubilee and I'm going to be using the 90s design, specifically the obviously the one with the yellow trench coat and the pink shirt and all that stuff. And we're going to be talking a little bit about effects today. So one of the things which I want to be very clear about here is that I'm sticking very closely to the sort of animated look here, in that I'm not really going to be altering a lot of the color stuff. A lot of the colors I'm going to be sort of trying to keep poppy and simple. For example, one of the things which I'm thinking of doing is that I'm not going to be doing many colors. It's going to be very few colors, and they're going to all be the same ones that are in the appropriate places. So things like the visor or the glasses will be the same color as the shirt, which will be the same color as the lips. The yellow on the trench coat will be the same color as the coat, and then the belt buckles. And the blue will be the same color as the shorts and the boots. All this stuff is the exact same color. That's the sort of thing which I want to try and do here, where I want to try and have very few colors, but that they occupy more area. This is a very sort of cartoon thing, is that you conserve the amount of colors you're using just to make your own life easier. Because that obviously makes animation easier. Whenever there's fewer colors going on, and whenever you're reusing the same colors for different things, that typically makes your life easier when it comes to animation. So that's what I'm doing here. And then obviously we're doing effects because of fireworks. So yeah, anyways, that's all that stuff quickly gone over. Those are our topics. So I'll roll the intro, and then I'll show you the actual beginnings of what we have. So yeah. So, as I mentioned, this is pretty close to the 90s design, the one from the cartoons. So, one of the things which I did exempt, which is actually very obvious because it should be right here, is she normally has a little button, a little X button as part of her shirt, but I chose to exempt it. For one, because it's not in the new show, and for two, because I don't want to have to do that. Very small details whenever the character is this small on the page typically don't translate well. However, I did include her little pink earrings. However, I'm not going to be doing any detailing on them, even though I think they should have some sort of detailing on them. I'm not going to be, because again they're small, and it'll just become black. They won't be identifiable as pink anymore if there's too much detailing on them, because the lines are too big for the size of the character. So yeah, that's one of those things of where I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to need to exempt some things in order to get things going. Yeah, what else did I want to go over before we actually start? Because I sort of covered a lot of the stuff with the colors and all that, because that's, obviously the colors, that's later. First things first is the details, but the colors are very important here because I want to keep things poppy and simple. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with the background base color, but obviously the pose here is sort of a reference to the animated series of whenever they're going through all the different title cards of the characters. Jubilee's is where she sort of like raises her arms out, and then all the fireworks pop up around her. That's sort of what this is a reference to, but obviously this is at a slightly different angle. This is slightly higher angle than that is, because it's low angle. Well, it's not low angle, it's slightly lower angle. But this is slightly higher angle, so that's sort of where this is sitting in that respect. In terms of the fireworks in the background, obviously for now I've just put these in as little star shapes. But I'm probably going to be a little bit more specific about the shapes that I use. However, I think it will still be star shapes. I'll still just do little star shapes. I don't really have any brushes that'll do this sort of thing for me, so I'll have to do this all by hand, meaning there's not going to be an enormous amount of fireworks, but they're all going to be this sort of idea. Again, they'll be a little cleaner than this because these are a bit messy. But yeah, that's the sort of idea, at least. However, I'll probably do them all in white and then just add various different types of glow to them. I'll have to do them in sections, do ones which are pink, do ones which are green, do ones which are blue, so on and so forth. I'll have to sort of separate them out like that. So that it's not all difficult to do. But yeah. So what else did I need to go over? quickly before we just start. Yeah, there isn't really any design stuff that's really worth noting, because this is pretty much exactly the design that she has in the cartoons, for the most part, in both the original series and in the new show. They're pretty close in terms of what's there. Yeah, is there anything else I need to really go over? I don't think so. I don't think there's actually a huge amount here that I need to like touch on, because the effects, that's stuff which I'll be doing later. That's like post colors. That's, well, you know, that'd be during the colors section, but otherwise the colors section won't be very long. I'm not sure what I'll do for the background color. For the background color, I might go for blue, because that'll sort of stand out, like a deep blue, or maybe an aqua blue. That could be an interesting choice, like an aqua blue color. I think blue is definitely what we want to go for, because yellow is her primary color. Because yellow and pink are her two primary colors. She's still got the blue in there, but to include the other like primary X-Men color being blue, I think it makes sense to do that. Yeah, as it stands, yeah, the sort of things which I'm going to need to worry about are the fireworks, which is a later problem. But yeah. So yeah, I don't think that, I mean, again, the pose is pretty simple. The design isn't exactly altered from anything in particular. It's a very specific design, which I've just sort of recreated, exempting one particular detail, and then there's all the effect stuff, but obviously the colors and all this. So yeah, the hair was a bit of a pain to draw. I'll bring that up, I suppose. The hair was quite difficult to draw because it's a very particular shape, and I wanted to try and replicate that as best as I could, but obviously she's got black hair, so some of these lines do sort of get a little bit messy, which is a problem that can happen very easily, as a matter of fact. But there is this little blue rim along the top of the glasses. Would this count as a visor? I mean, there's no actual delineation between either side, so I think maybe it counts as a visor. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it would count as, but I do know that I have to draw it. And I think I'm not sure what I'll do in terms of like adding any sort of like sheen to it. That'll probably be paints. That'll probably, yeah, that's a painting problem. Oh, there is one thing actually which I wanted to mention, and it's going to be about the light line. I'm going to try and do something creative with the light line this time. So because we've got all these different colors of firework, I'm going to be giving her a rim light just around the edge of her. Probably mostly around the shoulders, because that's where the fireworks will be hitting. Mostly it'll be around like here, around the top of her head, along the tops of the coat. Maybe along the edges like that, but not really much further than the edges of the coat. So what I'll do is, I'll do it as a white light line initially, then I'll add various different clipping masks over that, and then colour in bits of it with the appropriate colour of the firework. In theory, this will look good. It could look awful, which is why I'm doing it as clipping masks, and I can easily remove them. So that's the sort of idea I want to try and do with that. That's another interesting little effect, which I'm trying to get through with the fireworks, because obviously the fireworks are mostly just going to be a set of white lines with some outer glow on them. So that's mostly what they are, for the most part anyways. But yeah, anyways, without further ado, that's nearly 10 minutes of rambling. I will just begin. I'll do these details, and then I'll be back to do the colours, at which point I'll also do the fireworks initially. So yeah. Alrighty, that is our details done. Nice and quick. So it's funny whenever you see some of these elements come together. For example, the fact that the gloves and the boots are both loose. These are those little sort of things which they use design-wise to sort of make a character look small or look smaller than they are. For example, like the gloves and boots are oversized, which obviously that's a stylistic thing. But it goes to sort of it makes the limbs seem smaller because there's there's less of them on show, and B, they don't look as long because again, like a lot of it is being obscured. Let's say for the boots, a lot of it is being obscured by the sort of bagginess of the boots. So it's making her legs seem a lot shorter. And it's the same sort of deal with the gloves, of where it's like, oh, it's only really defined around the actual hand, and then the rest of it is very loose, so that sort of makes it seem very baggy, and obviously that makes her seem smaller. Because nothing here is in any real way form-fitting, everything is sort of loose. It makes her seem kind of small. The idea being that the clothes are too big. That sort of makes someone seem small is... Yeah, like baggy clothes tend to make someone actually seem smaller than they are. You'd think it'd be the opposite, but it actually... No, it makes someone seem a lot smaller because the idea of the clothes not exactly being form-fitting means that you think to yourself, oh, they're quite small for that. And that's the sort of mental thing that you think, oh, well, you just make that connection. But yeah, as you can see, a lot of these things aren't like super detailed. The detailing in sort of like the shirt and the boots is coming from like the folding. There's no actual like detailing on them. Like there's no like seam or anything where I would normally put them. The shorts only have as much detailing as they normally would. There's no I didn't like put in pockets or put in like again any seams or any of that stuff. Same with the shirt. Nothing more than there needs to be, because I want to keep this. I want to allow the colors to be vivid, and something which you sort of need to do whenever you're trying to do that is you need to sort of lower the amount of detail, because otherwise it will start getting absorbed by the lines, which you don't want to happen. So again, you don't want it to be that whenever you zoom out, pretty much all you're seeing are the lines. That's the sort of mental thing you need to get past. Because obviously whenever you zoom out, you don't want it to be like, oh, well, I'm only seeing all the lines just sort of merging together here and making one sort of clump of messiness. Because this is the thing, the more detailed something may be, whenever you start zooming out from that, it starts actually doing the opposite. It starts having the opposite effect of what you want it to have. It starts sort of creating just a bit of a mess. Like a visual mess whenever you sort of look at it from a different angle. So for example, like I didn't do really much in terms of detailing on the coat. The coat is pretty light on details. If it's only around the areas where there needs to be details, only around the sort of bends of the arms and stuff like that. There's a little bit of folding here, a little bit of folding up there, but around the sort of ends of the coat, not really any. The shirt only has the sort of folds around where it's tucking in, and then around the neck a little bit, because it's a high-necked shirt. The shorts aren't like super detailed. There's a lot of space here even still. And then obviously whenever there's like any bare skin showing, I'm not over detailing that. I'm just putting in exactly what's necessary, just putting in enough to define the shape of the knee. That's about it. That's all you need. So this is the thing. It's important whenever you're trying to make the colors especially pop, that you don't overdo it in terms of details, because whenever you overdo it with details, it can just, a lot of these things can get lost. The other way to do that is to just use thinner lines. I don't really do thin lines all that much anymore, because I find that it's a lot of effort for very little reward. So a way that you can do it is to do thin lines, because the thinner your lines, the more that they'll just sort of disappear as you zoom out. And meaning those details will only be there for the person who looks close. However, I just find that it's a lot of effort to do those thin lines and to get them to work properly. So I typically sort of stay to thicker lines, unless it's the face. The face I normally use maybe some thinner lines on, but largely I keep things kind of thick. But yeah, in terms of the background, yes, I think I'm sort of going to do maybe like an aqua blue or something like that. Sort of a vivid blue. Because I want to keep all these colours pretty vivid. Keep it all very sort of poppy. And make it very bright. Is sort of going to be the colour palette I'm going to go for. So when it comes to the gradient maps, I'm sort of not sure what I'm going to do with those. I might maybe look up some colour palettes and think of something that might work with this. Because as it stands, I think what I've got in terms of the colour palettes that I have floating around in my head just isn't going to work. They just aren't going to quite work. But yeah, anyways, I think I will begin these colours. I'll do the fireworks and stuff like that in here, but obviously I'm not going to be doing any of that light line stuff until later. So I'll do the sort of basics of the background, I'll do the fireworks, and then obviously that'll be back for the painted shading. Which shouldn't take too long, all things considered, because I don't want to go too crazy with it. I want it to be somewhat subtle. Because the detailed shading will do more of the sort of poppy stuff that I'm talking about. But you'll see that whenever I get to it. Anyways, I'll do these colours, and then I'll be back for the painted shading. No, I said the wrong one. Painted shading is what I'll be back for. Anyways. Okay, that is our colours and our background done. That is basically the entire background done. I don't think I'm going to really be making any more changes to it than that. So yeah, the fireworks were a whole lot of work. So yeah, it was a case of where I decided to still stick with the sort of like star pattern and then just sort of hatch around the edges of it just so that it sort of gives it the sort of immediate explosion and then the sparkles that come out of it like you'd see with the firework, of where the immediate like actual burst is very visible and then there's also the sparks flying around it. So I think they do look like fireworks. I think they maybe got more like fireworks as I went. The pink ones, as you can sort of see, are a little bit more minor. There's not quite as much of the hatched edges going around them. But yeah, so the colors largely, as I mentioned before, I try to keep them very sort of sharp and poppy, which obviously is the case here, I think. And yeah, I think the aqua blue sort of works. I think that works for us. The very bright aqua blue. Obviously, that sort of mutes the blue fireworks a little bit, but it's not that bad. I think they still stand out quite a bit. I initially had the fireworks as much more vivid with the outer glow. I had the outer glow larger, is realistically what it was. But I don't think that looked very good. I think it looked a little too messy. I think it maybe obscured too much, made it look a little weird. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't really working for me. So I decided to tone it down. And that's where we are now, where I've sort of... I toned it down a little bit. And I think it's all still very clear. That's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, so whenever gradient maps and stuff like that go on, some of this stuff will change, obviously. I think the background will probably get a little darker, things like that. So the fireworks will probably stand out more whenever that happens. So we'll see, obviously, because we're not there yet. Gotta do the painted shading first, which should, in theory, be reasonably quick. In theory. Because, yeah, who knows, this could end up taking another hour. We're already nearly at the 3-hour mark, which was, I was nearly done by this point last time. So, yeah, we'll see. I think, largely, this shouldn't actually take that much longer. I should be able to get this done reasonably soon. Because the painted shading should be quick, and then the detailed shading won't take too long after that. So, without further ado, I'll carry on with this painted shading, and then I'll be back to do the detailed shading and the light line. So, yeah. Okay, that is our painted shading done. As I said, not too difficult. So everything is developing definitely a warmer skew now in terms of the colorization, based on the painted shading, anyways. Because I went for the sort of skew to purple for dark, skew to yellow for light. Well, it was actually more skew to pink because I went with more so just her colors, because those are the sort of colors that are being emphasized here anyways, being the yellow, pink, and blue. Those are the ones which are sort of, yeah, drawing the eye anyways, is those 3 colors. So I was sort of trying to skew things more towards both of those colors. I added a tiny little bit of sheen to the visor. And that was sort of it, really. That's really the only sort of big noteworthy thing within the painted shading. Really, the detailed shading will sort of clean things up, because again, the painted shading is somewhat subtle here. But yeah, the detailed shading should sort of clean things up and skew them back. Not necessarily skew them back, but it'll just sort of emphasize those darker elements, re-emphasize the lighter elements, so on and so forth. I mean, largely speaking, this is quite bright in terms of there's not a lot of like heavy dark shading here, and there doesn't need to be, because I mean, this is bright. I mean, look at it; it's very bright. But yeah. So one of the things which, yeah, so I mentioned I was going to do that thing with the light line. I'm going to try and do that during this section of where I do initially a white light line, and then I go back over it with various different clipping masks, and then recolor it to be yellow, pink, and blue in the appropriate areas. So whenever I'm doing that, you'll sort of see I'll do a bit of a rim light around this edge, basically mostly just around the edges like that, around the shoulders, around the back of the arm, around the front of this arm, around the back here. And that's sort of just going to be the idea here, is that mostly it's going to stick around there. I don't think I'm going to bother doing anything down here, because the coat would logically be sort of blocking most of that light, because all the fireworks are behind her, so it's a case where largely be blocking most of that. You'd maybe see a tiny bit along the boot. No, I'm not going to bother. There's no point really, because none of the fireworks are that low. So I'm mostly just going to keep it on the coat. Once none of the light line will really be on the inside, so we'll just sort of leave it at that with the light line there. But yeah, so I think there's no need to dawdle much longer. I'll sort of just carry on. I'll do these. I'll do this detailed shading, and then I'll do the light line, and that'll be us. Then I'll have to do some gradient map stuff. So yeah, we'll get to that when I get to it. So anyways, first things first, detailed shading and light line. Okay, that is our detailed shading and light line done. I think I managed to get that across quite nicely. So, yeah, you probably saw I tinkered with the background a little bit more there. So I just added this little bit of dark to the top with the background, just so that it sort of blends down a little bit, makes the fireworks stand out a little bit more, makes it all look a little bit nicer. And then I obviously went through and I did all of my light line stuff. So I obviously initially did the light line, and then I went through and I redid bits and pieces of it so that bits were obviously darker, or not necessarily darker, but bits were yellow up here because this is the closest firework, and then there's the pink here because this is the closest firework there, then there's little bits of yellow here, blue there, pink there. It all sort of blends together nicely, I think, with the way the different sort of colors interact. And then I just decided for one reason or another to do pink as the signature. I think it looks a little nicer here against the blue. Anyways, it stands out more. It's not the most legible, but it does stand out. But anyways, now is time for the gradient maps. So we'll do that now. I have a bit of an idea for what I want to do with this in terms of the, what do you call them? The different colors I want to use for this. So let's have a look. Let's see, how well is this going to work? Now I'm curious, because again, I never set this to just be normal. So I'm curious to just try something here of where I want to maybe have, I'm going to change that pink to be yellow. But I'm going to have this be sort of a pink here. Just make this a bit like that. I'm curious to see how well this works. If I just do it like that, and then let me set this to I'll just set this to be my lightest already. So let's set that to be yellow. This is gonna be weird, but I'll try it because I think it might look interesting. This is going to be quite a few colors here that I have to worry about, so right, this is going to be an aqua blue. Set that to be somewhere around here, that's about right. Maybe make it a little bit darker just so that looks alright. This already sort of has the blend that I'm looking for, but I'm going to just readjust it anyways. I'd say we're going to want to make this one a little bit subtler, largely. It is making certain colors look definitely strange, I'd say that much. And one thing's for certain, none of this would print, but of course that's not really part of the problem. I'll actually leave this luminosity up high because that'll sort of blend them a little bit more into the normal shades. Maybe put the luminosity over everything. I think that should be over everything. And then how does color burn look here? Color burn is intense. I want to bring that down to 5% as per usual. Right. It's interesting and it's different. So it's definitely an idea, I'd say. Definitely an idea. Yeah. It's definitely, Right, okay, let me grab my texture and we'll see how that interacts with this. Because who knows, that might not work here for one reason or another. I don't know why it wouldn't, but it's possible. It's always possible that things could go horribly wrong. So right, let's see how this works. Okay. Alright, overlay. Alright, so we're going to want this to be subtle, I would wager, because it's going to be very intense against the background. 15% seems like enough. Yeah, it just feels like some of these shades, it seems like it's turned her skin very green for some reason. Even though it's... I suppose this is the... I mean, again, it's like... It feels like a lot of this... It feels like the green was really strong or something. It doesn't look quite so bad whenever I'm looking at it on the monitor in front of me, but for some reason on my tablet it's like very green. A lot of this stuff is very green. I don't know if it's something to do with... Yeah, like it's not even... But anyways, I think that's us done. I'm pretty content with leaving it there. This was an interesting, weird one, but it was fun. It was a fun one. I suppose the fireworks and stuff like that definitely, I suppose, occupied a different sort of thing than I'd tried before. And again, we were doing some weird different effect stuff, especially with those gradient maps. Some weird stuff going on there. But yeah, it's certainly some weird, unusual stuff that we were doing today. But yeah, anyways, I'm happy with this. I think all in all, this was a fun one, though. It wasn't that difficult, but it was, I suppose, a little bit time-consuming, and it required a lot of brain power to try and figure out some of these elements. But yeah, I'm happy with that. But anyways, I suppose I'll just do my outro and then I'll leave you. So, if you liked the video, do whatever it is that you'd normally do, whether that be liking or not. I'd of course prefer if you liked it, but I can't make you, so just do whatever it is that you're comfortable with. Same deal if you want to subscribe. I'd of course prefer if you did, but I can't make you, so just do whatever it is that you'd normally do. I don't need to tell you where the subscribe button is. You've presumably watched a YouTube video before, so you know where it is. But with that said, I will just say it is beneath the video in case you don't know. Anyways, if you would like to leave a comment or suggest something that you would like to see me draw in the future, that's obviously an option. You can leave a comment, nicely worded. Say it nicely or don't say it at all. And if you choose to watch the next video, I will see you next time. So with all that said, that is us. So I'll say goodbye. And I'll leave you. So, bye-bye.